Welcome back, everybody, to episode 21 of the RacePlazaMedia podcast. My name is Milan.
My name is Pia.
And today, finally, is the day where we get to talk about MotoGP again.
Yes, they're back.
They're back from their 1 month off from their summer break.
A proper, actual summer break.
Well-deserved
Yes.
for everyone. And for me, it's also not specifically just the riders. It's also really the crew members who have to work
100%.
so hard and who have to probably show up. The first ones to show up, the last ones to leave
Yeah.
every single day. So I'm very happy that they were able to get their break. I'm, however, also very happy that we get back-to-back races.
I know.
So that makes me very, very happy.
Yes.
This also meant that something unusual happened this weekend. That meant I also watched a sprint race.
Oh, yes, that's so true. I started watching it. I was
Yeah.
sitting on the couch on my phone watching it, and you were playing video games at the time, and then suddenly I noticed that the video gaming stopped, and I looked at you, and I'm like, are you watching the sprint too?
On your phone screen.
Yes, exactly. So then I ended up putting it on the big screen,
Yeah.
which I thought was just funny. But it's just because we both waited
For a
so
while.
so long. But we were just
month,
very
yeah.
excited
Yeah.
that they're back. They were racing at Spielberg this weekend.
Yeah, Red Bull
So
Ring.
at the Red Bull Ring in Austria.
Yes, which is an awesome track. It is a little bit of a different version compared to the F1 track because after T1 there's a chicane before going to the hairpin needle, whereas in F1 it's just like a slight left-hander that leads up the hill.
Yes, exactly.
The reason why this is relevant because it was a really lit overtake during the main race.
Yes, there was. We'll get to that in a
Yeah.
second. First up, we're not going to go through the whole starting lineup, but a couple things that maybe we want to highlight is, first of all, Bez on pole, which is very exciting. I think it was his first pole in a very long time.
Yeah.
So it was very exciting to see that, and also just to see that the momentum that he caught before the summer
Yeah.
break, that he was able to bring that with him into the second part of the season.
Yeah, it seems like our friend at Ducati had almost the opposite thing happen.
Oh, yes.
Or actually, like his momentum. So I'm talking about Pecco Bagnaia.
Yeah.
Whereas, like he didn't really have any momentum, and it continued being a bad weekend for him, which is really unfortunate because this was the track that he has won the last 5 years, or he has already won there 5 times. So of course, after the summer break, maybe being recharged.
Yes.
Hopefully, also doing something for your mental health, and being able to put like the not so strong first part of the season behind you now
Yeah.
that we're going into the last quote unquote 9 races of the season. And it's just unfortunate that it was really not on for Pecco.
Yeah, I mean, he did have a good qualifying.
Yeah.
He ended up in the front row, third place starting position, which was good.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, we'll get into it in a second what happened to him. Mark Marquez didn't have the best Q2. He had a crash out towards the end of it. So he ended up starting second row in fourth place. Next to him, which I was very excited about, was Enea Bastianini.
Yes.
So very excited to see him again a little bit closer because he had a little bit of better races towards the end before the summer break. So it's nice to see him still because he had a really tough start to the season.
Yeah, and I can't remember which track it was where he all of a sudden was on this insane push.
Yes.
Was it Sachsenring?
It could have been Sachsenring. I don't remember off the top of my
And then
head.
he ended up, unfortunately, crashing out.
Oh, yes. Yes. I
Where
remember.
he had such great pace. So it was just awesome to see Bastianini doing well. Yeah, I mean, he's an awesome guy. And I know the beginning of the season was a little bit tougher for him, like you said. So it's good to see him in the top 5.
Yes. Yeah.
That's very exciting. It's also exciting if we're looking at the constructors for like the top 5 or top 6. It is quite diverse because we have Ducati, we have Aprilia.
For the starting grid.
For the starting grid. So
Yeah,
yeah. For the starting grid, we have Honda, Red Bull. So it is awesome. I know that Yamaha had a really terrible weekend.
Yes,
with their
very terrible
bikes.
weekend. Yeah.
Very unfortunate.
Which is also such a bummer because Quartararo had such a great season. He had several poles. Of course, he wasn't able to convert it into a win, but it was it was such a surprise to not see him anywhere in the top 10 this weekend. And then, without spoiling anything, Yamaha literally had the last 4 positions in the main race also. So it's just such a bummer that they just didn't have the pace at all this weekend. I think Quartararo's fastest lap at one point was still a second slower than the front of the grid. It's just yeah. So hopefully they'll turn the corner going forward. But going into the sprint race very quickly, unfortunately, our friend Pecco and also Freeman Aldegar both had a poor start. They almost had the same thing happen to them where they had wheel spin right at the get-go, which I'm so surprised that there was no crashes. Because
I was very surprised too,
both
especially
of them,
with Pecco.
Yeah, exactly, because both of them lost control of their vehicles, of course, and they went inwards, like towards the middle of the grid, and then of course everybody else had to do avoiding actions because it was literally the drivers in the first row and I think it's the second row, I think, where Aldegar was. Yeah, so like back-to-back riders had the same experience. So it was really interesting. It was such a bummer because then immediately Pecco lost several positions.
Yeah.
Understandably.
Yeah, of
course. And then several laps after that, I think it was your lap 8, he even had to retire the car. You could see it during the race. Oh, did I say car? Yes. He had to retire the bike because you can even see it for a couple shots that we saw before that. He was shaking like incredibly.
It seemed very unstable.
Yes, very unstable. Seemed very unsafe too. It's just at the speeds that they ride. So at lap 8, what a heartbreak. He had to go and retire the vehicle. Yes, is a motorcycle considered a vehicle? Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just so devastating that the first sprint back, he had started on the front row, and then now he had to retire their car, which is, I guess, the little.
Bike.
Oh my gosh, I keep saying that. He had to retire the bike, but the I guess the little bit of good thing is that the retirement of the bike is not his fault.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
it's first of all, like, it's positive that he didn't crash.
Yes.
Not because of his own fault or because like the bike wasn't where it needed to be, because like we saw that last year in Supercross, right, when the bike fails the rider and then Kenny got injured so badly, right? He broke several bones when he was chucked off the bike. So it's good that he was able to get into the pit safe, but it was really already, that was almost like the beginning of the downfall of his terrible weekend. And it's so unfortunate because you would think like, hey, I'm coming back to this track that I really love, and then qualifying goes great, or pretty good, you're starting on first row. It's super unfortunate. I think who was really, really exciting during the sprint race was our man, Pedro Acosta.
Yes.
It's very exciting to see him, really get into it again. For a while, he kind of, because obviously the focus is always on the top 3. And for a while, we didn't really see him, even though we know that he has the gift to do it, like, or he has what it takes to be in the front, but obviously he's on a different bike now, and so it was just awesome to see him doing better, much better.
Yeah, and also he's been doing better this later part of the season, or this middle part of the season, I guess, and you can also tell by how he's been talking about it. He seems so much more excited, and then he ended up on the podium, which was so exciting. Oh, the sneeze is coming.
Sneeze away from the microphone.
Yeah, I will sneeze away from the microphone, but it was just so exciting to see him on the podium. He was so thrilled about it. He was so grateful to the team and the factory that they're putting in so much work, and it is working out for him because there's pace. Like several of the KTM riders we're seeing closer in the front. We had Brad Binder there also. We have Enea Bastianini. His sprint race result wasn't quite as great just because he got caught up by Pecco's start because he was right behind him.
Yeah.
Or close to there. Or Pecco had crossed in front of him essentially. So that's why he ended up right behind him. So that sucked. But it's really nice to see that the KTMs are better. The only KTM that we didn't see this weekend is Maverick Vinales because he was out due to shoulder pain. There was. Bless you. Thank you. So it's really nice to see that the KTMs are mixing in there as well. So the final result for the sprint race was Marc Marquez won it yet again. We had Alex Marquez in second, and then in third we had Pedro Acosta. Unfortunately, Marco lost his pole, and then of course he ended up in fourth place, so he didn't make it onto the podium for the sprint race. But it was already an improvement based on how his weekend started on Thursday. Things didn't go quite as well for Aprilia.
And also like Alex Marquez did lead the race for quite a bit,
that is
but
true.
it was again this typical thing that happens a lot these days where the moment Mark sits in second place, it almost feels like he's in second place because he's letting you be in the front.
Yeah, I mean,
it is just it is what it is, you know. That's just like, it sucks for the rider who's in the front, but like we've seen it time and time again this year where he's like, yeah, I was sitting in second because I was waiting for the tire to be in the right window.
Yeah.
And then he maintains the gap. He's like, okay, I'm letting you now be a second and a half or half a second be ahead.
Yeah.
And like you can tell like the whole time he is maintaining the pace.
Yeah, I know. Every time when we watch it, I'm like, oh, maybe Alex will win it now, or maybe Marco Bezzecchi will take it, because I have a little bit of hope that it will maybe become a little bit more interesting. Like, obviously I'm a Marquez girly,
doesn't sound like it for me,
but I just want it to be interesting. But then you're always like the common sense on my shoulder,
like
of
reason who's like, no, Marquez,
no, he's just, and I know it, but there's like this part of me where I'm like, oh, maybe today is the day.
The only reason I'm also saying this is because it is a distance that he's maintaining that he feels clearly very comfortable.
Yes.
Like closing it. It's not like he's like, okay, I'm going to let you be ahead 3 seconds. You know, it is like we usually within a second.
Yeah.
And then he's just riding behind. And then to be honest, also the overtake on Alex was very easy.
Yeah.
There was like, it almost seemed like maybe Alex wasn't expecting it in that very moment, but like the overtake was so smooth, and then he immediately pulled away, and then that was that, you know.
Yeah, it's truly, he's behind them. He watches their line, he protects his tires, he lets them push and control the pace, and then once he maybe realizes that their tire is dropping off, then he passes so he can take advantage of his tires and just use his full pace.
I almost think that he actually waits until he's in that window where, like, if there's a red flag now, I need to be in first place. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, interesting.
Because, you know, they had mentioned that also in the main race where it's like, okay, I think, was it 2/3 of the race have to be done? And if it's a red flag, then the race is over. So it's because that's when the overtakes, I think, happen. Because they also talk about that a lot in the WRC. Bless you. In the world and the women's world racing circuit. I said that wrong. Whatever that, I can never remember. But it's also there. It is also a lot of strategy. It's like you want to make sure that when you're getting towards the end of the race, you're in front in case someone crashes out, because it does happen quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt that he's smart about it. You know,
I'm sure that is also a component
all of these things
that all fits into that narrative. I'm sure there's probably multiple factors why he's doing it at a certain time.
The only other quote unquote loser that I want to point out for the sprint race is unfortunately Raul Fernandez with Trackhouse. He had to retire the I almost said it again, or I did say it.
You did say it. We all heard it.
He also had to retire his motorcycle at lap 9, so right after Pecco did. It was such a bummer because he was literally riding in like the top 5, top 7, which was so great to see. Trackhouse up there.
Yeah, not where we see him.
Not quite that far up top, because he's been in the top 10 and he's been having some decent races. But it was just such a bummer. I don't know exactly what happened with the bike or why he had to retire it. But I mean, clearly there was a big reason, because otherwise they could have brought home several points.
Yeah.
You know?
100%. It's a bummer, because you could also tell on his body language that he was very upset.
Yeah.
Because like, how often do you make it there and, you know, your first race after the break and yada yada yada, and then it's like immediately a shit show. However, let's now move on to the main race, because there a lot more happened.
Yes and no. I feel like the first half was not as interesting as the second half.
First half, we all had a little heart attack. We'll get to it in just a second.
Yes, okay, you go start it.
Okay.
Remind me of my heart attack.
Do you want to tell us the starting grid real quick, or like the top 5? Do you have it?
I
think it was Bezzecchi.
Yeah, so we had Bez, Alex Marquez, Pecco Bagnaia.
I think Bezzecchi, right?
Huh?
Said it very naturally right. Sorry, I was.
I think it's more like Bezzecchi.
Okay, well, whatever.
Remember, we had looked it up.
No.
So anyway, Alex Marquez, Pecco Bagnaia, Marc Marquez, Enea Bastianini, Firmin Aldeguer, Pedro Costa, Morbidelli, Raul Fernandez, and Joan mirror.
So right off the get-go, Bez, that's what I'm going to say, Bezecchi, he had a fantastic start.
Yes.
It was a difficult start because it's also he started on the left side and the first corner's a right-hander. So, but he defended it really, really well, and he was kind of able to pull away. Mark, most times he actually had also a really, really decent start where he catapulted himself right into third place.
Yes.
Pecco was in second place, and then Alex Marquez slotted in fourth. And then there was actually really beautiful battling between the two Ducati factory team riders.
It was very intense battling.
It was very intense, but it was hard but fair. It was not like anyone was doing anything like out of pocket, but it was awesome. I think it was like in lap 2 or 3 we had this insane moment where Mark really like almost slingshotted right alongside Pecco, and then Pecco, however, was so late on the brakes, but he made the corner very, very beautiful. And then we had Alex trying to really also hang with the front and then open up a gap because he still had a long lap
penalty
from the race before the
summer break
when he got together with Joan Zarco.
I thought it was Joan Mir.
Joan Mir.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, so many J names. Yeah. But it was Joan Mir because it was our boy who was just a
he was very unlucky casualty.
Many incidences these days, but. So he was trying to, fill up that gap because the grid was so close together.
Yes.
And you have to take the long lap penalty, I think, within the first 4 or 5 laps.
Well, once you get the official notification,
so
you have
I think he got 3 that
laps.
After lap 1, he got the official notification, hey, you have to take a long lap.
And then he has like 3 laps to complete it.
Exactly.
And that was the tricky bit, like you said, because the grid was so close together. So then it was like he would lose, I think it was like 2 seconds or something like that.
And we're between 2 to 3 seconds, yeah. Correct.
Yeah, and then so that would bring him into the either like the mid pack or even further back.
So it was like best case scenario come out 10th, and worst case scenario come out 13th. And then for for Alex, it was unfortunately he came out 10th, but then the riders were so close, and he obviously wasn't in the right line.
Yeah.
And then he dropped down to 13th. He was able to make those places up, and then he was in 10th, but then he was just in nowhere's land.
Yeah.
And he stayed unfortunately in 10th all the way until the very end of the race. However, before we get into his teammate who had a fantastic race, and which is like just he probably filling in the shoes because we always need the Grassini in the front, is that in lap 13.
Well, that
was the mini heart attack.
That was for me. That was like almost halfway through the race. That's why I didn't.
Well, because you said the first half of the race wasn't that interesting. I was like, how long was it?
28 laps.
Yeah, so that's exactly right.
Yeah, so no, you're right. But I mean, the battle between the two factory Ducatis also gave me like minor heart palpitations.
Yeah, because they were definitely pushing each other.
Yes, that was like the most aggressive, while being fair battle that we've seen as of recently.
Between the two of them,
yeah. Yes. Which was fun to see. And I also loved to see the bite in Pecco, that he was still in it. Yeah. But then once he had conceded that position, he just started dropping back and losing more and more positions to other riders because he was also making mistakes, and it kept going wide in certain... I feel like there's this one specific turn. I don't know which one it was, but he went wide there several times, which had hurt him, because that was also when Pedro Acosta and then also Bastianini, I think, had passed him. So it was just...
like he was dropping down, but like a stone, honestly. He was like losing position on position. And it was also... It's so interesting, like how where Mark just like excels on the bike. It's like Pedro is not.
Yeah.
And... Pecco.
Yes.
Pedro is fine.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about him. But it's also, the commentators also said that Pecco is so aggressive in the beginning of the race. So like the first 5 laps, he's so aggressive and he's on there, and then it's like almost like there's a rider switch.
Yeah.
And like it's a different person that's
I think
on
it's
there.
usually, and I think they also commented on it, usually once he start losing a position, that's maybe kind of when like his like, well... There it is, kind of situation.
I don't know, and it's so unfortunate because it's like, I mean, I would have loved to see him on the podium, but also on the top step if he would have had that positive experience. I think
Yeah.
something to boost his, confidence a little bit. That would have been awesome. But the thing that I wanted to say
Yes,
that
yes.
was the heart attack moment for all of us.
Yes.
Literally every single person watching.
Yeah.
If you watch and you weren't scared, then you must be
Not a
very
MotoGP fan.
well, you must be very upset with this person because
Yeah.
when Jorge Martin dropped from his bike in lap 13,
Yeah.
we all held our breath. Every single person. The commentators
Yes.
were afraid.
Because I
Everyone-
remember we saw sector
Yes.
so-and-so, yellow flag, and then it's always then the question like, oh, who was it?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it was Jorge Martin, and I was like, oh my God, he just came back.
Yeah, and then
you know?
he was laying there, and then you saw the people from the medic team.
They brought
all-
the stretcher out
They brought
already.
the stretcher out already, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" And then you could see in the crash, which is fortunately it was a bottom side.
Yes. Yeah, like a
yeah, he just slid
low-
out, but it looked like his leg got caught on the bike.
Yeah.
So he was at all times touching the bike
He
while
kinda-
sliding out. He was
Yeah.
kind of in front doing like a belly slide.
Well, it was, yeah, and also he was like dragged with the bike
Yeah,
instead of kind of, which also I feel like has higher chances of injuries because the bike is obviously heavy and then can maybe pull you in different directions that
Yeah.
your body doesn't want to go to, or the momentum, like whatnot. So it was so scary.
We
And then
were all
he laid
so
there for
afraid.
a minute, not a minute, but like
but like a moment.
like a
for
moment.
sure.
And it was already heartbreaking. And then the crew there tried to get the bike up and ready for him, but he clearly didn't get back on the bike.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple moments later, we saw him sitting on a chair with like his head down, still in like in his
full gear.
attire with
Full gear.
the helmet still on. And it was like, oh
I
my
was like,
gosh.
please don't.
Yeah,
And then,
please.
of course, then he had to go to the medical team. He had to get checked out, which is, standard procedure. But when you hear that, obviously, you're still scared.
Yeah.
And then, fortunately, we later on saw a clip of him sitting in his garage.
Yes.
With, and you could see that he was fine. Also, someone from the team later did an interview that he was fine. He's going to be racing next week.
Yeah.
So it was just like everyone was scared, but he is like healthy.
Yes.
And I also think like if we see what Bez did today on the bike, right, or this weekend,
Yeah.
right, it's like imagine like once Jorge is back in the rhythm of it, right? Because there was an incident, I can't remember which drivers it was, where they were overtaking Jorge, and there was like, it wasn't a way overtaking where it's like, oh, this would have not happened to Jorge Martin last year, just because like he would have ate them alive,
I
because
think it
he
was Binder and Joan Mir maybe at that time, but I
can't
could
remember, but
be
it was like
wrong.
you could definitely tell that his reaction to the overtake, because I think there was also contact, was that it was way more conservative.
Yeah.
But also like 100% I get it. Just like finish your race.
Yeah.
Obviously at that point we didn't know that he was going to go down, but it's like finish your race, stay on the bike, get as much time and on the bike to
Yeah.
practice, because
and hopefully
everyone
some points.
yeah, exactly. And everyone is obviously like 10 races already acquainted with
Yeah.
that bike that you didn't get. And yes, he's had some practice, but that doesn't make up
Yeah.
for or testing.
Yeah. I do want to also point out, like, I know you always say that, well, we see how well the bike does or how well Bez does with the Aprilia. However, we don't know if Jorge will click as much with the bike as Bez does. I hope so, because I
You're
would.
a non-believer.
No, I'm just saying, because
Yeah,
you
you never
see
know.
the Ducati factory drivers or riders, how both of them have a different experience with the bike.
Very
So
different.
it could be like this. It might not be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping we'll get to experience Jorge a little bit further up up the ladder of the grid. That would
Especially,
be
like,
lovely.
I think maybe in a couple of races I could already see it.
Yeah.
Because I think from what I've seen is that he has, I think in testing and stuff like that, he's had some really great experience.
Yes.
And that's why I think his mindset has changed about wanting to leave Aprilia for
Yes.
next year. But of course, let's talk about
Well, the next big thing I think that happened several laps later is
7 laps later. Yep.
is a bike caught on fire.
Yes.
Literally.
Someone was smoking on the bike. No, just kidding. No.
No, it was DG.
Yeah.
His like he was going down a straight, and then we just saw white smoke essentially coming out of the bike, but not just a little. Like the whole road behind him was covered.
I believe it was straight after the hairpin.
Could be. And then you could just see flames right by his right foot, essentially, right behind him, like probably where the brakes are in that kind of area. Well, actually, let me not say that because I have no clue what's there. But like
Bike materials.
Bike, yeah, exactly. Wherever his foot is, a little bit behind it.
Right
and,
foot, yeah.
And like you could see him, the bike was still rolling, the flames were going, and I'm like, get off the bike. And then I think it took him a moment to realize that it's actually on fire.
Yeah, and I think he also didn't want to drop it because I'm assuming that because they don't come with stands, so it's not like he could like pop it on the stand and
No, exactly.
move away from it. So and then he was kind of like holding it with his body as far as away
Yes.
until then, people came with the fire extinguisher, the marshals came and then held the bike and then he walked off.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he like no injuries, but a little bit, of course, frustrating for him that this is how his race ended, especially because DG has been actually having some really great races this season. So hopefully they'll be able to figure it out, whatever caused that fire. Yeah,
but now let's talk about not the winner of the race, but the rider of the race.
The rider of the race, Firmin Aldeguer.
Yes.
All of a sudden, towards like I would say the last like 10 laps of the race, he just came alive on that used tire. I think he also said in a post-race interview that they're super fast with the used tire.
Yeah, I mean, he started in 6th. He lost 2 positions at the beginning, and then he started making his way up through the grid. But then, during the second half, he suddenly had this pace on him that was so incredibly fast. He was literally making up half a second per lap. That's why he was able to make it through the grid. And then at some point we saw him behind Pedro Costa, behind also Pecco at some point, and they were like talking about, Firmin might make a
charge
push
for the podium.
Exactly. And I was like, oh well, he still has to pass several people. But then all of a sudden, the whole thing with Jorge happened, the whole thing with DG happened, and then all of a sudden we had Firmin had passed Pedro, so he was right behind or making his way towards Bez to pass him. And then also, first of all, the pass on Pedro Acosta was gorgeous. It was in the chicane. He it
was the second corner.
Yeah, it was launched into the inside of it. It was aggressive, but it was still on and safe. And
I will say I don't think a very common area to overtake.
No, it was so surprising.
I think that also caught Pedro off guard. I don't think Pedro was expecting the overtake right there. But it was it's like also like he had so much more pace going through the corner because he immediately set up a gap between the two of them. He then hunted down Bez. And it did help that I think the front wasn't too far apart.
Yes.
Because at that point, Mark had already overtaken Bez. He was like, it's time for me to be in the front and see what that's like. Because also Mark Marquez, in his defense or whatever, is that this is a track that has not been in his favor.
Yeah, he had never won HB.
Never won there before.
Yeah.
But then Aldeguer, and then he ended up making the pass on Bezzecchi, also beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. I think it was in the hairpin that he made the overtake. And then he was hunting down Mark. But I don't know if at that point also like the tire fell off. And then obviously Mark is notified like, hey, there's someone coming for you. And then Mark was like, okay.
Yeah. I also do want to point out that Bez did say that during the later half of the race, he was having some issues with the bike. So I wonder if there could have been...
It was super shaky.
Yeah.
If you look at the clips where him and Mark were fighting, there was a lot of wobbling. And I was like, props to him for not dropping it. Because that looked, some of that looked really scary.
Yeah. Which I also want to point out, we didn't have really like major crash outs.
No,
some races we had more.
Yeah, just Jorge really. And then DG was not his own fault.
Yes. Yeah. But then, so the final result of this race, Mark winning his 6th consecutive Grand Prix this season. Then we had Firmin Aldeguer in 2nd, and then Marco Bezzecchi in Bezzecchi. Sorry, I was so focused on the first one
I could
that
tell
I didn't get the second
you
part
went back
of
to
it
our
right.
pronunciation.
But then Marco coming in 3rd.
Also for Firmin Aldeguer, his best main race result as 2nd place.
Yes. He'd been on the podium earlier this year. I think it was at Le Mans.
It was a third place, yes.
He came in third, but then this time, and he's a rookie.
Yeah, he's
Let's
a
not
rookie.
forget this. He is
this
a
was
rookie.
a fantastic performance by him.
I mean, it was shocking.
It
I was so
yeah,
surprised. Like
it also
the
came out of
pace.
nowhere. This pace all of a sudden, it was more insane than when we had Digi when he made it onto a third place. Like, because all of a sudden he had this pace.
Yeah, I was when we were watching the race, I was like, oh, it's almost like he's in like this flow state, and everything is like clicking,
Yeah, 100%.
and everything is in the right setting and things. So, like, it was definitely like, so this later half of the race was more interesting. The first couple of laps after the start was a little like, meh. But then definitely things got a lot more interesting. So, but I'm so glad we're back.
Yeah, I'm super glad, because I also think more negative things happened in that mid part, because like the way Pecco was also overtaken, the way he lost the positions to Bastianini and to
And then he had to
Pedro.
also give up a position.
Yeah, because he did the same thing again. It was going into T1, he went wide.
Yeah.
And then he did it again later and he lost position. It's like...
Well, and then because he went wide twice in two corners back to back, or it was like, he went wide, and then it looked like he lost the position, but he kind of got in front of them. He had to give up a position to Joan Mir
by going
exactly,
off,
and then so Joan Mir and Binder had passed him, or were going to pass him, but then Pecco came in front. He had to give up the position to Joan Mir, but then Binder just had the better momentum, and then he lost the position to Binder too. So he ended up in 8th, which is a bummer. And then Alex just he ended up in 10th after the long lap penalty and everything.
Yes, so let's just talk about the top 10, because there's some really cool things in there. So number 1, Marc Marquez.
Yes.
Then second place, Fermin Aldeguer. Then we have Marco Bezzecchi in third, Pedro Acosta in fourth, and then Enea Bastianini in fifth, and then Joan Mir in sixth.
So exciting.
So awesome.
I'm so happy that nobody derailed his race.
No, leave the boy alone.
I know. And so him being in sixth, super, super happy. Then we had Brad Binder in 7th, Pecco in 8th.
And then here we go in his kind of like redemption. Raul Fernandez made it onto 9th, and then Alex, as we said, in 10th place.
Yes. So overall now, Marc Marquez is leading the overall rider championship with 418 points. And then 142 points behind him is his brother, Alex Marquez. And then we have Pecco Bagnaia in 3rd with 221 points.
We have 3 people with 144.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yes, that's so true. Because we had Marco Bezzecchi in 4th. Yes, 178 points. And then we have Frankie Morbidelli, Fabio Gianantonio, and Pedro Acosta, all with 144 points.
So that will be interesting who's going to battle out for 5th, potentially 4th. I do also think with his performance of Marco right now, Bez, there might be a chance that he might take that fight to 3rd place to Pecco.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, depending on how...
I mean, I know it's 50, a little bit around 50 points, right?
Yeah.
But still.
It's definitely
like 43
possible.
points, yeah.
It depends on really how both of their next couple of races will be going. It's also I always love that although Bez is no longer on the VR46 team, there's always so much love for him from them, of course, too. Just because, I mean, he was on the team. He also comes from that academy, that rider academy from Valentino Rossi. So just for them to still like support him.
Who was
and
also there on the track, or like on the grid.
Yeah, he was
Not
also there, Valentino.
He was there, and then you could also see him congratulate him, Bez, at the end.
Yes.
So it was really, really awesome. I will say it was a great race returning from the break. Next weekend, they will be in Hungary.
Yes.
Racing at the Hungaroring, I believe. And I'm very excited. And MotoGP is back, baby.
Yes. So excited.
Now.